Hello, Tennis Weekly listeners. This episode is brought to you by Tennis Channel.
Tennis Channel is the new home of British grass court tennis after signing a 4-year deal with the Lawn Tennis Association.
With a subscription to Tennis Channel of just £2.49 a month, it's the only place you can watch every single match on the green stuff, including the Rothesay Classic in Birmingham,
the Cinch Championships from Queens,
the Rothesay International from Eastbourne,
and the only place to watch the ATP Challenger in Ilkley.
With lineups including French Open winner Carlos Alcaraz and Naomi Osaka,
as well as home hopes Emma Raducanu, Sir Andy Murray and Jack Draper.
And to top it all off, we have an exclusive Tennis Channel introductory offer for our listeners.
Yes, that's right. Using the code GRASS24, you can save 30% on your annual subscription with Tennis Channel. That's GRASS24 for 30% off your annual subscription.
Sign up now to Tennis Channel at tennischannel.app or download the app and use the offer code during sign up.
So what are you waiting for? Sign up today and don't miss another day's play from the grass court season.
Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim and Chris. On today's Tour Catch-Up,
Jack Draper becomes the new British number one.
Boulter goes back-to-back in Nottingham.
And Carlos Alcaraz and Rafael Nadal team up for doubles at the Olympics.
Kim, Chris, today is the 17th of June and we are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ. Red clay has been replaced by green grass as we move on from Roland Garros and set our sights toward Wimbledon. And what a week it has been for the Brits on tour, with Jack Draper securing his first ever ATP Tour level title and Katy Bolter defending her title in Nottingham. Elsewhere, we're going to be hearing from Carlos Alcaraz on himself teaming up with Rafa Nadal for the Olympics, plus Andy Murray and his thoughts about the new British number one. Guys, the grass court season is well and truly here, and the Brits have started with a bang.
It couldn't have gone that much better, really, for the official week one of the grass season, could it, for Brits?
I'm still in a state of shock. I was at Queens. I was at Queens yesterday. By the way, I'm just going to say I'm just going to casually drop that I've been at Queens yesterday. I'm going all week. I'm very, very excited. But there was talk in the media centre yesterday of when was the last time a British male and a British female won tour level titles on the same day? I mean, answers on a postcard, because I think you're going quite far back.
Was it the 70s? Potentially, I think I saw
was
something on Twitter.
Well, it wasn't Murray and
definitely...
Conter, wasn't it? I don't think that ever happened.
No, I don't remember that happening. But then I don't think we should get too far ahead of ourselves, because then I did hear that if you win a title in the run-up to Wimbledon as a female player, you won't win Wimbledon unless you were Maria Sharapova in 2004. It's been a very
we need to downplay it now. We've gone
yes.
big on the Brits. We need to downplay it now.
We need them to bubble under
into Wimbledon. Is there a stat that means you're going to lose first round instead? You know, is it really bad if you actually win in the run-up? I'm not sure. But great stuff from the grass so far. And Joel, very exciting that you're there at Queens all week. We look forward to hearing all your stories.
It's beautiful. It's hot. It's not Nottingham. Let's say that in terms of weather. And I was there today, first day of the main draw proper, and I'm not gonna lie, it's just great to see packed crowds for first round action on a weekday, on a Monday no less. I mean, some of the other tournaments, I feel like the crowds, it's really hard for organisers to get bums on seats so early on, but it's not an issue with Queens, and it's created such a great atmosphere. The sun's out, all the players are there. It's fantastic.
Well, we've had quite a lot happening in the last week, and obviously another bumper week with Queens getting underway at the moment. But let's take a look at what's happening outside of the tennis court, because quite a number of things in the press this week. My favourite thing from the last week, and something I'm very much looking forward to doing later this week when it's unveiled fully, is the Roger Federer Prime documentary. The premiere was last week. It's launching. 12 what's it called? 12 final days? 12 days of Federer? I'm not sure, but it launches on the 20th.
Is that a Christmas movie, 12 Days of Federer?
Yeah, on the first day of
Federer.
Federer, he won his first
Oh,
Wimbledon.
Kim, I
don't
like
know.
it. Pop Idol next.
Yeah,
I know.
beautiful.
Gosh, don't get me singing on the podcast. But yeah, I can't wait to watch this. The trailer looks amazing.
Well, sing some Ellie Goulding for him, and maybe you'll be in it.
I mean, there's got to be some Ellie Goulding in the documentary,
There can't
surely,
not be.
because he loves her. He did another post, a social media post this week, like a video, and he chose to, put her song in the background, I think. So
Does he manage her, maybe? His talent company? Could that be a possibility if we looked into
maybe
it?
there is some link. Yeah. All I would say is get the tissues ready, because the documentary did look like it's going to induce
tearjerker.
crying. And I was looking at some of the YouTube comments when I was just watching the trailer, and the top comment, I thought, I can agree with this. It said, "The world was happier when Federer was playing." I thought, actually, I think it was. I think the world was happier then.
Is that only with Ellie Goulding though in the background?
Well, what's one of her sort of "Love Me Like You Do"? Is that an Ellie Goulding?
Yeah.
Still falling
Yeah.
for you.
That his favourite tune? I don't know. But yeah, I'm very much excited to watch the documentary.
I mean, Roger Federer may have Ellie Goulding, but Iga Swiatek has Taylor Swift. And although, it's the grass court season and everyone is moving on from the clay to the grass, was Iga Swiatek? No, because if you're the world number one, you've got time to take a time off after winning the French Open. And she went to go see Taylor Swift in Liverpool on her, is it her Eras tour? Something like that.
Yes, the Eras
on
tour.
her Eras tour. And she actually got a signed letter.
Yes, she was very much in awe, I think. There was the social media post, she was sort of almost in tears, or I don't know if it was raining or if she was crying because she'd finally seen Taylor Swift in concert. And Chris, what's been floating your boat off the tennis court this week?
Well, normally I don't get my Sloane Steven news from Joel, but this week I found out that Sloane has got herself a deal. She's got a deal with Got Bag. And we've been looking at these, and it's 3 bags that are sustainable social purpose products from recycled plastic. So very reasonably priced. I personally think that we should get these with the Tennis Weekly logo on, and I think we all need one.
Ooh. I was just thinking this is going to be your Christmas
Secret
present.
Santa, I think I'll know who got me that, Joel.
I'm a big fan of one of the bags, the moon type bags. They're super practical for like going out and about. So I think this is a great move from Sloane. Sustainable, stylish, Sloane.
And also they look all white, so they actually look in keeping with Wimbledon. So is she going to do a Yannick Sinner? Is she going to pull a Yannick Sinner and bring one of these bags onto the tennis court?
They are quite neutral. Maybe she'd get away with it.
That would be a smart move.
Whereas, that could be very good. But essentially, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I want to say that Sloane won a match on grass outside Wimbledon for the first time since 2015. And that is shocking.
Wow.
And I think I was there the last time she won a match. So she may not always be winning on the grass court, but she can win in style on the grass court.
Well, one player that won in style on a grass court last week was Britain's very own Jack Draper, who won his first tour title, beating Berrettini in 3 sets to win the event in Stuttgart. This is amazing for Jack Draper. He came from a set down as well. He was 2 points away from defeat. I think we all would have understood if he'd lost that final, given that Berrettini, is a former Wimbledon finalist and has won many titles on grass in his career. But Jack Draper, brilliant stuff from him, getting the title. And not only that, he's going up to 30 in the rankings and is getting that coveted British number 1 spot as well. Joel, we saw Jack Draper win the UTS in London. And obviously that's a title of sorts, but this is his first official ATP title. What did you make of his week in Stuttgart, especially that final?
Yeah, it was a very impressive showing in the final because he was he was a set down. He was very close to defeat in that tie break, and he managed to come through against a very smooth operator on a grass court, Matteo Berrettini. I mean, put injuries aside, he knows his way around a grass court. We've seen that, Wimbledon. And we've seen that at Queen's, and it's been a very impressive week for him. I think, you look at some of the results in the context of his season, he's had kind of tight matches where he's probably felt it's been 50-50 and it's not gone his way. But actually this week, I think he's had a few close shaves and it's gone the other way. And I think, this final, certainly Berrettini did put up a very good fight, but Draper got the job done. I think we all know sort of Berrettini's weaknesses, particularly around the backhand, and it felt like Draper, particularly with his serve, was targeting that area and that wing. He got a few cheap points, but it felt like to me that, for Draper, first title, British number one, I sort of think it was only a matter of time given, the form of the other Brits around him and, the talent that we know that he has. So, I think it's a very promising sign. And if you, again, take this and look back on how his grass court season was last year, where sadly he didn't step onto a grass court, he effectively cancelled it. It couldn't be more different this time round.
Yeah, and third time lucky as well, because this was his third tour level final. So I'm glad that he's sort of not gone down like the Felix Auger-Aliassime route of, 8 finals before getting his first win.
He still had a way to go to do that.
Absolutely. And Berrettini had won this event, twice before, so obviously knows his court super well. He was back in his first tournament since, I think, Monte Carlo. So, he's coming back onto the tour as well. But yeah, still fantastic from Jack.
You just felt that the tournament organisers, because it was the Boss Open in Stuttgart, you just felt that they were desperate. I really felt it kind of watching it on TV. You just really felt they were like, I really hope Berrettini wins because he is sponsored by Hugo Boss as well. They had that motorbike at the end, which Jack Draper got on, and I was like, that was definitely designed for Matteo Berrettini to sit on.
Yeah, I mean, they could have made that like the runners-up prize. They could have shifted the rules.
Just shift it really quickly at the end.
Get some photo ops. But Chris, what do you think is next for Jack Draper now that he's won his first title? Like, where does he go from here?
Oh, I think he might get a Boss deal potentially. I think that might be a good place to start. But
not a British Vogue deal.
Oh, well, he's got one of those already, hasn't he? He's all over. It's all coming together at the exact same time. And we all know how talented he is, as Joel said. But I think now it's about exercising those demons like he did in this final. And hopefully he'll be able to kind of push on. We've had a few moments where he's had some great results. I think the UTS, I just thought he could beat anyone because he beat some really top players that week and played such amazing tennis. So ultimately, if he can manage, his ability to play big points well and serve well and get it done, then I think he's such a threat at all levels and to anybody because he has weapons. I think Andy Murray's been talking about just how talented he is, and it just feels like he's got the game to do it all, but he doesn't always seem to do it. So I think celebrate what's happening now, and I really hope that this is where he really steps up a gear.
Well, I think it's time to hear from former British number one Andy Murray, who spoke at Queen's Club about Jack's performance in Stuttgart. Let's hear what Andy Murray thinks and where he thinks his ranking specifically can go.
I think grass is obviously a brilliant surface for him. I think he'll do really well over the years on the surface, and always special to win your first title. And everyone's different in terms of things that motivate them. Jack, I think, has bigger goals to aspire to than being British number one. In my opinion, he can get right up to the top of the game, right at the top of the world rankings.
So I was there when Murray spoke about this, and it caused some eyebrow raises in the room because Andy thinks that Jack Draper can go to the very top of the rankings. And I wanted to ask you both what you made of this, because he could be on course, or he is on course at the moment, to be seeded at Wimbledon. And I think a lot of people will be breathing a big sigh of relief if that does happen. But where do you see kind of Draper going? Because, again, Murray alluded to the fact that, yes, he's won his first title. Yes, he's now British number one. But arguably, those were not really kind of objectives and goals for him. He's got bigger fish to fry, and he reinforced the fact that he thinks that Jack Draper could potentially be a future world number one. Kim, what do you think of that kind of gut reaction to that statement? Does that sound plausible, or to get to the level where Andy Murray was at his peak?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like I can see Jack Draper as top 10. I'm not sure about world number one at this stage. I don't know if that's because he's British and I don't want to think so highly of a British prospect, but I hadn't really envisaged him being quite on a par with like the Sinners and Alcarazes, who I think, from a really early age were kind of that cut above. But that's not to say he can't do it. But at the moment, I think of him more as maybe in the sort of Alex de Minaur category, maybe right now.
That's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I think the difference between Jack and some of the other players is that they are desperate for this. They've been cut for this. This is all they want to do, all they think about. I think he's quite a well-rounded individual, very down to earth. And I'm not sure that necessarily lends itself to the lofty ambitions of world number one. I think he's not like Holger Rune, where he had that picture on his wall of Rafael Nadal and envisaged this all happening, or Alcaraz. I feel like the hunger has to be there and the drive has to be there, like from the very start. Whereas I feel like with Jack, he loves it and he's doing really, really well at it and he's really focused on it at the moment. But at the same time, he doesn't live and die by the results that he has in the same way that some of those others do. So I can see top 5. I'm not sure I see number 1. Joel?
I think we'll know. I mean, we were excited because we thought we might get Jack Draper, Carlos Alcaraz at the French Open, because I think they were scheduled to meet in round 2 and they could potentially be on the cards to play each other at Queen's Club. And I would love to see him play more of his contemporaries, his more highly regarded contemporaries who have kicked on earlier, at sort of a similar age in their careers, like Alcaraz and Sinner. I certainly at the moment see him as a top 10, top 5 contender. I still think there needs to be work done for me to kind of have that belief that he can go to number 1 in the world. And I think particularly around his body, which has let him down at times in his career so far, he needs to make sure that his body is ready for the whole season of the tour, not just for periods at a time. And I think we've also been here before. Kim, you spoke about the sort of nervousness with kind of looking forward, and I think we're in this space with someone like Kyle Edmund, who, again, it felt like he had the world at his feet. Great runs at Grand Slams. I was there when he got to semi-finals at the Australian Open, and it sort of didn't really go for him, and his body. He could sort of succumb to his body. So there's a little bit of, I guess, trepidation as well, just naturally as British fans. But at the same time, it's still very, very exciting at the down
Got to have a dose of British, pessimism. I think
we've got to bring it down a little bit. Yeah.
Which is why when Katy Bolter won the title in Nottingham for a second year in a row and making it 2 titles in the course of a day for Great Britain on Sunday in Nottingham, I was, very nicely surprised, because it's very infrequent that we get, 2 Brits winning 2 titles on the same day. But Katy Bolter, remarkable defence here. Back-to-back titles in Nottingham now, and her 3rd career title on the trot. So in basically the course of a year, she's won 3 titles, which is absolutely fantastic. Beating Karolina Pliskova, no less, in the final from a set down. Chris, she really had to work hard on the Sunday, especially to win this tournament, didn't she? With all that rain and the semi-final going over onto Sunday, she had to play a lot of tennis to get this one.
She did. And also, it's a very strange way to start your day, knowing that you have to win 2 sets in a row and then play a final later that day. And she really rose to the occasion, because she's been playing long matches this week. There's been some really close ones. And I think that showing physically, we've talked about Jack physically, you don't necessarily think of Katy Boulter as being physically one of those players who could go hours and hours and hours, and she's really stuck it out. The fight that she had was unbelievable. To come back, have to come back again, come back the next day, and then come back in the matches. I think she's got so much heart, especially in Nottingham, and you just think that she wanted it the most. She willed herself over the line, And it was, I mean, she wasn't warm out there. She was in leggings, so she needed an umbrella at times, but she really found a way. And I think that's what's been so great about this, is that it's a backing up of a home triumph and showing, this is the Katy Bolter Open.
And she's actually got quite a decent record, I think, against Pliskova. I think they've split the head-to-head. And I saw her a couple of years ago beating Pliskova at Wimbledon in the second round, I think it was. So I think going into the final, she had confidence knowing that as well, she'd won this title 12 months earlier. But I think, that title 12 months ago was against Jodie Burrage in the final, very nervous in her first final. So going up against Pliskova, who's, much more seasoned, has been, highly ranked Grand Slam finalist.
World number one.
World number one. Yeah, of course. So, I mean, that's next level, and it just shows the work that Katy Boulter's done, especially in the last year. Really, really impressive stuff. And also that semi-final against Emma Raducanu, Battle of the Brits, that was a really close first set. That tie-break. Joel, did you see that tie-break? It went the distance, didn't it?
It was epic. I mean, this was, I think, what everyone, as British fans, were just hoping for, because this was their first ever encounter, Boulter versus Raducanu on the WTA tour, semi-final, final on the line, and they were just going toe-to-toe with each other, and it was just fantastic, really compelling to watch, because, Raducanu's comeback, her comeback's been great so far. Boulter will have felt like she had a point to prove, so it really did feel like it was bubbling through nicely. And Chris, you got to think that the fact that it carried over to the next day, it was to Katy Bolter's advantage, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Raducanu was looking pretty good, and when you do get that sort of a big set that's been so close where your opponent had chances, it tends to be a bit of a runaway second set at times. I'm not saying it would have been, but I do think that if they had continued, it could have been a different result. But that is the grass court season. That is how it works, and you never know. And I feel like tactically, when Boulter came back, she really had a mission, and she executed much better than Raducanu did. But the positive is that Raducanu said that she's loving out there competing, and it feels like it is great having these Brits who are playing this well. It's fantastic seeing that sort of a clash, and 3 hours. I think anyone who managed to watch some of that would have absolutely loved it and relished that, because it really was. It was great quality, and it makes you very optimistic for the women's side of the game.
I will say, guys, the rain situation was a bit of a nightmare, and I know there was a few years ago where Nottingham, it basically became an indoor tournament, and it felt like at moments this was also going to become an indoor tournament, and it did. It had its impact on the scheduling. I spoke on Twitter about the fact that it was a little bit surprising to me to see on finals day that we had the Pliskova semi-final finish first, and then they had the Boulter Raducanu match finish, and it sort of felt like those should have happened at the same time, to give them, time was of the essence here. I didn't feel like it was the right call maybe to make them one after the other. I understand. I think there are rules in place, and that's why it happened, but it sort of felt like both players should have kind of started at the same time, and giving them as much time to recuperate before a final later on in the day.
It's good it didn't affect the result, because that could have been a very different conversation.
But I feel like it affected the performance, because I think Pliskova as well was running on fumes. I mean, she tweeted today being like, I think she said long with an elongated O. In reflecting the tournament, and just how many hours I guess she spent on court and how long it took. So I don't know. To me, it's sort of maybe they were running on fumes, and it did become and it did become a bit of survival and who wants it most in the final.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time we've seen that happen, unfortunately.
And you have to hope that going into next week it doesn't affect the performances, because Katy did win the title last year, and then it didn't necessarily happen the rest of the grass court season for her. So hopefully, maybe, would you play this week if you were Katy Bolter? Or would you take a little break and then maybe try and peak again before Wimbledon?
It's tough though.
I'd keep going.
With Birmingham. Yeah, I'd keep going. Make hay while the sun shines. You want to play at home as well, don't you?
Boosted by the home support.
And Yeah, I think so. I think she'll have learnt though from last year, and maybe make some. Well, we'll see. But I think though it was meant to be to some extent, because earlier on that day, not only a Jack Draper won, obviously, but a bit closer to Katy Bolter's heart, her other half, Alex de Minaur, had won out in Hertogenbosch, the event in the Netherlands. So he won his title. Katy Bolter then won, and this happened earlier on this season when they both picked up tour titles in the same week, back in Acapulco and San Diego in the first week of March. So this is the second time this year they've both picked up titles in the same week. I mean, is that ultimate like hashtag couple goals?
Yeah.
Sissi would never.
Honestly, you should just text your partner saying, how are you playing this week? Because maybe I'm going to win one too.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is,
It's just sort of spurring each other on, aren't they?
Yeah. They obviously have a very supportive, encouraging partnership. It's leading to mutual success. Yeah. But Alex de Minaur, as we said, he won out in Hertogenbosch, beating Seb Korda in the final. He was the top seed. His kind of brilliant year really is continuing. He won that final 6-2, 6-4 over Korda. And as a result, he's up to 7 in the rankings as of today, which is his highest ever position. The last Australian to do that since, I think, 2006 as well. So again, really kind of cementing himself in the top 10.
We've seen how good he has been, this season, and he just seems to be going from strength to strength. And I know a lot of doubters, talk about him in terms of he doesn't have any weapons, and wasn't maybe even expecting this to be on the cards. But certainly in that final, I felt the one thing that he does have that we all know him for, his speed and his movement around the court, and his kind of setup was just really kind of paying dividends against Korda, who is very technically a very good player, but I just wonder with him whether his movement sort of lets him down. And when you come up against someone as speedy as de Minaur, he really put paid to that, I think, against Korda. So it was a good result, and I think it's a reason why you see someone like de Minaur, even if you think, hang on, he's not got any obvious weapons, and maybe before you were thinking he only wins more so when his players break down or commit errors, but this more aggressive style that he plays this season, he actually can take it to his opponents, and he found Korda wanting in the final.
Do you think the grass might be actually his best surface, because he is such a good mover, he's such a good retriever, and also will get that extra pop on the ball? If you say he doesn't necessarily have the biggest weapons, but that serve will be that much more quick through the court. It will take away some of the time that you have, even if your serve isn't that big normally. It's more about the placement at times on grass. Do we think that this is the slam where he has the chance to go the deepest potentially?
Possibly. I mean, I think he's demonstrated that he's pretty nifty across all surfaces. But yeah, grass, I think, is potentially where he could make his breakthrough. Maybe this tournament, Wimbledon coming up, is the place to do it. But I mean, do you also think, we were talking about Jack Draper and where his ranking ceiling could be, how high could he go? Where's Alex de Minaur's kind of ceiling? Is he a top 5 player in your view? Joe, I'm going to come to you on that one.
Ooh, I think so. I think he's consistent. I think we talk about him in terms of all the court surfaces and just being, he adapts, I think, very well across whatever court that he's playing on. And, the fact that he is a very good grass court player, wouldn't surprise me if he kind of makes a deep run at Wimbledon. So I certainly think, ranking points are there, and being in the top 5 is on the cards. And, with the confidence that he's playing with at the moment, I don't think it's out of the question.
And with regards to Seb Korda, obviously getting to the final here, that's great. But he's a player, we saw him do well at Wimbledon a few years ago. He's been kind of a prospect for a while now, but this is kind of, it feels like this is the first time he's kind of gone slightly deep, getting to the final for a while. He's kind of not really kind of kicked on of late, has he? Is there something that's, I know he's had a couple of injuries along the way, hasn't had the smoothest path, but I feel like he's kind of out of the conversation. But do you think this could be the start of him trying to get his way in again, where we're actually talking about him being kind of a threat.
I think it's tough because, I look at Korda, he's a tall guy, and I always wonder, does he make the most of being tall? And I actually think, you look at his serve, his first serve, I think de Minaur is a shorter guy, but he actually has a more potent first serve, it feels like. So I wonder with Korda whether there needs, he doesn't necessarily have a power game, and I think make the most of his height advantage, and as a result of that, it's sort of, I think, inhibiting his play, his results, and his sort of move up the ranking. And although I think you look at him on TV as a fan and you think, wow, technically, he's very good, shot making excellent. I say movement is a little bit, I think that maybe there's work to do there, but I think when you just look at the amount of 3 points or the lack of 3 points I think he gets on his serve, for me that's an area of weakness that he can build on, particularly with the grass court season, where you want to make sure you're as rock solid as possible so you can assert pressure on your opponent's service games.
And obviously the event in Hertogenbosch is a dual event. It's ATP and WTA, so we did have the women's event, the 250 there as well. Chris, this one featured one of your favourites, Bianca Andreescu, getting to the final. Very exciting, but she did just miss out, didn't she? 7-5 in the third set to Samsonova, the number 2 seed, who got her first title of the season from a set down. And I mean, were you tuned in to this final? Because I know you were at a wedding over the weekend, Chris, but did you
He will find a way. He found a way.
Did you make time to tune in?
Well, I did tune in for the Osaka match. I wasn't able to because I was actually at a wedding in Corfu for the Samsonova match, but Bianca is back. And I think that when we've been looking at some of the numbers, it's been 5 years since Osaka and Andreescu had met, which just seems crazy. You would not believe it if someone told you that at the time after their first meeting. So that for me was where my attention was. And then I think, you can will a player to do well, but it doesn't necessarily mean it will all come perfect in the final. I think that Jack Draper found that as well. It doesn't always happen. Even if you played fantastic tennis throughout the tournament, you've got to bring it in finals, and maybe Jack hadn't until the Boss Open in the same way. So with this one, I think it's a great stepping stone, and I think it kind of justifies the fact that she is playing the Olympics. She is going to get some of these wild cards because clearly she's at the level she needs to be competing back on the tour. And we've said it a lot, but fingers crossed these players remain injury free, because Bianca's been quite Seb Korda-like in terms of there's been a comeback, there's been a good result, a bit of an injury, and then they drop off the face of the earth again. So hopefully this is going to stick around.
Well, I mean, in that final, she had an injury, and she continued to play on, and it was sort of the match almost kind of summed up her career, because we saw her through the tournament, particularly at the Osaka match. Like, we all know her natural ability on a tennis court, but she just seems to get injured either way. And I spoke about Seb Korda and his movement. I don't know about you guys, but it feels like with Andreescu, she falls over a lot, and I don't know if that's like her footwear or that is her coordination, but there's a part of me that wonders if, like, can she help herself by kind of staying on her own 2 feet rather than going to ground? And I appreciate that, courts can be slippy. We saw that today, I think, at Queen's with Tiafoe, who had to withdraw with a knee injury whilst playing against Hijikata. But I just wonder, with Andreescu, it's like, just try and stay more, I guess, balanced and keep upright, because I sometimes wonder if she's is she helping herself when she kind of goes for some of these shots and ends up on the deck?
It is tricky also, because if you are someone who's injury prone, it's very hard to move with confidence in the same way. And as soon as you don't have that confidence, then you're way more likely to fall. So I think probably it comes from an injury prevention side of things, that maybe rather controlled fall than do some more damage than you might get from falling. But I mean, I do think sometimes she does maybe slightly, as you say, like trip up over her feet. And I think you see that on clay as well sometimes too. But I think maybe that's just a style, and hopefully they don't lead to anything more.
It's falling with style. It's the Buzz Lightyear approach, falling with style.
Falling with style, and hopefully she falls with style and then maybe gets up with style too.
But one player who, is quite a dab hand on grass, it does seem to be Samsonova. She's got 2 grass court titles now because she won Berlin a couple of years ago. I think that's why I predicted her to win Wimbledon a few years back, because she won the Berlin title. I'm not sure.
Still holding on to it, Kim.
It may still happen. She's putting herself into good form, peaking at the right time. So we'll see. But yeah, she's up to 15 in the rankings, winning the title here. So perhaps a bit of a dark horse one to watch for Wimbledon in a couple of weeks' time. But we are going to take a very quick break now. Do join us in the second half, where we'll be discussing Rafa Nadal and Carlos Alcaraz teaming up for the Olympics. Emma Raducanu deciding to give the Olympics a miss. Plus, we're looking ahead to a trio of 500 events this week on the grass, including Queens, Halle and Berlin. So do not go anywhere.
I mean, I remember watching Michael Johnson in the Olympics. I remember watching Steve Beckley as well. I'm not entirely sure why that, but it was always had memories that stood out. I think he came close, a number of times. And yeah, I mean, there's lots of memories that I would have from the Olympics, but they would probably be 2 individuals that stood out for me.
That was Andy Murray talking about his Olympic heroes growing up. The US sprinter Michael Johnson and the UK javelin thrower Steve Beckley. Joel and Chris, do you have any Olympic heroes you'd like to share with us?
Steve Beckley. I mean, I love when he said that, because it felt so like out of the blue, but also I can also appreciate it at the same time. I mean, my Olympic heroes. Oh, I always remember staying up late for like Steve Redgrave in the rowing in Australia.
I did that as well.
Classic.
Matthew Pinsent.
Matthew Pinsent.
Oh, Matthew Pinsent. Yeah, I think it's got to be a sport I feel that I just don't watch, unless it's the Olympics every 4 years.
I liked Kathy Freeman. I remember that amazing suit that she wore in Sydney,
suit,
and then I also Denise Lewis. I just thought, it's all of those events you have to do. I'm always in awe of people who can do multiple things well, because I mean, just doing one well is hard enough. So I'd probably say maybe Denise Lewis would be top of my list.
Like a good all-rounder. Yeah. I mean, I remember more recently Super Saturday 2012.
Yeah.
That wasn't that exciting.
Oh yes, Mo Farah.
What a great year.
Greg Rutherford.
Jessica Ennis.
And Jess Ennis,
3 of them. Yeah. Fab stuff.
Oh, we're getting into the Olympics.
Andy Murray.
Olympic
Andy Murray should be our Olympic hero. Sorry.
Andy Murray.
What's wrong with us?
Yeah. Duh.
Monica Pui.
Yes,
champion. Monica Pui.
That's my Olympic hero.
Elena Dementieva.
Well, moving on, it is time for another edition of Par for the Courts. And Joel, I believe you've got one for
it's been a while.
Myself, Chris, and our listeners.
It has been a while. And I'm not going to lie, I feel like this is the second half. I mean, we're already speaking about Olympic heroes. We're going to be getting on to tennis and the Olympics very soon. And I want us to take a trip down memory lane for a Olympic edition of Par for the Courts. And your subject of choice for you and our listeners is medalists at the Tokyo Olympics, the last Olympics, Tokyo 2020, which was in 2021. I'm looking for any of the singles or doubles pairs that won a medal in tennis in that Olympics.
So 2021 Olympics.
How many names
or
is
doubles
it that we need then?
Medalists.
So I'm going to say there are 15 correct answers. So you can give me a singles name, and that would be one correct answer. But if you want to give me a doubles pair, I'm looking for both players to get the correct answer.
Right. Okay. And are we setting par, or are we going back and forth?
Oh, I think let's do back and forth.
Perfect.
Let's see how far you get between.
We can help each other.
Between the two.
Please
of you.
name a finalist.
It could be quite. It feels quite tough. Yeah, it feels quite tough. But yeah, I feel like it's a good time to reflect on Tokyo. Who would like to go first?
Go on, Kim.
I'll
yes.
go first. Why not?
Oh, I like it. I like it. The confidence. Okay, Kim, start us off. Olympic edition of Par for the Courts. Who are you going with? Tokyo 2021 tennis medalist. Who are you going for?
Sasha Zverev.
Correct, yes. Gold medalist in the men's singles.
Belinda Bencic.
Correct. Gold medalist in the ladies singles.
Marketa Vondrousova.
Very good, Kim. Yes, silver medalist in the ladies singles as well. Runner-up to Bencic.
Lena Svitolina.
That is correct. Yes, bronze medalist in the women's singles. I love this. The women's singleist medalists are all gone
jogging
already.
my memory.
So yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Bencic, Vondrousova, and Svitolina all gone, but all correct.
So this person, I think, is correct. Pablo Carreño Busta. PCB for short.
Very good, Kim. Very, very good knowledge. He got a bronze medal. Bronze medal in the men's singles.
Didn't he beat Djokovic in the third place?
Oh, I believe he did. He did, didn't he? Yeah.
Oh, Djokovic had a bad Olympics. That was a tough one to watch, wasn't it?
He was so desperate for it, wasn't he?
Yes.
And it just didn't materialise. Yeah. I don't... Yeah.
Well, that's actually jogged my memory again. I think we're going to finish off the men now. Karen Khachanov.
That is very good, Chris. Correct answer. Silver medalist. So there we go. I think that's 3 apiece.
We're into the dubs, are we now?
And we're into the doubles now. So I am looking for both names. I need 2 names for a correct answer.
Is it mixed doubles as well?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So you've got men's doubles, women's doubles, and mixed doubles.
Oh, this is a bit rogue, but Angelique Kerber. I feel like she did something in the mixed doubles.
But don't you have to get both?
So Kerber
and...
Kerber and...
Oh, I see. Sorry. With Zverev, I think.
Oh, that's incorrect, Kim.
Oh, no.
That's incorrect. So Chris has an opportunity
I'm going to take the win,
to
Kim.
take it.
I remember this vividly. Pavlyuchenkova and Rublev won the gold.
Oh.
Chris, that is a correct answer. Yes, you
Well
win
done, Chris.
this edition, this Olympic edition.
Thank you.
Of
I've got a
Par for the
couple
Courts.
more
You
names,
are
though.
Right, yes. So gold was Rublev and Pavlyuchenkova. Yep. Well, who else have you
Gold
got?
for Kujikova and Sinyakova.
Yep.
And then,
Correct.
Matej Pavic?
Yeah, and-
Yeah.
Oh,
Kim,
yeah,
you
of
could have
course.
given me Pavic and Mektic.
I think Vesnina.
Yeah, we only mentioned how he'd done the gold.
Vesnina and somebody.
Yes.
In the men's
Yeah,
doubles.
you are
don't,
right.
In the mixed, I don't know who it is, though.
In the mixed doubles.
Oh, can I guess?
Any
is
ideas?
Safulin?
Kotov? No.
Not Safulin.
Who?
Aslan Karatsev.
Oh.
Who'd have thought?
There we go. Yeah. Any more? I can read you some. I can read you the others.
Should we?
that you haven't
Should
got
we
yet.
get the doubles finalists, or tell us?
I
Joel,
mean,
tell
they're all
us.
quite classic. They are quite classic.
Roger
doubles
Vasselin.
partners. No Roger Vasselin.
Bear?
I'm going to put you guys out of your
Tell
misery.
us.
You could have given me Cilic and Dodig, silver
I do remember
medalists for Croatia.
Croatian, yeah.
All Croat final. Wow.
Venus and Daniel got the bronze for New Zealand.
Wow.
And as I say, Mektic and Pavic got the gold. So men's singles was Zverev, Khachanov, and PCB. Mixed doubles, Rublev, Pavlyuchenkova, Vesnina, Karatsev. And then the
was it
bronze medal,
Brazilians?
Ash.
Oh,
No, it was Australian, Ash Barty and John Peers.
no. Wow.
Ah. Amazing.
And then moving on to the women's doubles, it's a Sinyakova, Krejcikova, Bencic, Golubic.
Oh, I
got
did
the
know that
silver,
she got gold and silver, yes.
And it was Brazil, Chris, for
That
the
was
bronze
it.
in the women's doubles. Stefani and Pigossi.
Pigossi.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then the women's singles, Bencic, Vondrousova, and Svitolina.
Honestly, we did.
Don't know where I got Kerber from, but there we go.
She's got a,
Thanks,
she's got a
Joel.
silver medal, though. She did in Rio. She lost to Puig. Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
Don't worry,
Oh,
Kim.
yes.
I'll get
I'm just
Rio.
5 years
We'll do
out.
Rio. Yeah, we'll do Rio at another point, and I'll make sure you're able to bring up Angie Kerber then.
wonderful.
Thank you so much. But listeners, let us know how you got on with that one. Let's going to dig into our mailbag now. And actually, I don't think we've got a mailbag question from a listener. We're going to hark back to something we spoke about before the French Open. We wanted to wait till now to do it justice. This is a question, I don't know whether it was from myself, I think originally, but it was following on from the whole Ben Stiller appearing in Rafa Nadal's player box and Matthew McConaughey turning up for Tommy Paul. It was, which celebrity would you like to have rooting for you in your box, and why? I think this came out of also the Challengers film, perhaps, with all the box action.
I mean, Ben Stiller's just always there, isn't he, for Rafa Nadal? Like,
at the US Open, he
player
is.
box, on
Stalwart.
Twitter, any loss, he's just always rooting for him. I'm almost like, I want Ben Stiller in my box, because he's like, literally any sort of moment, he is always there.
He's too loyal to Rafa, though. He'll never go to your box.
Hang on,
John.
I'll convince him with a invitational entry into the Croydon Open that I'm starting.
Who will he support when Rafa retires? That was the question.
Alcaraz, maybe?
That's what he'll do. That makes sense, yes.
But is he so loyal he wouldn't even go to another player?
He'll rescind tennis.
Just go into the GOAT debate.
Renounce tennis, rather. Well, who would you have then, Joel?
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of someone.
You need a UK famous sort of person, Joel. You love a cult British celeb.
Maybe
Paul
Daniel
Bettany.
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig.
I feel like I'd love Daniel Craig. Yeah, in my box.
James Bond has been
good.
before and inspired Marion Bartley to get that win over Justin Lennon. So maybe it'll inspire you to do a fantastic performance at SW19.
Only though if he's in a dinner jacket tux
Not a
situation.
Speedo, so he wouldn't make it onto centre court in that. No.
What about you, Chris? Anyone who you'd go for?
I think it depends on where the court is. If it's Wimbledon, then I would love it if Sue Barker was really cheering me on.
Yes.
She is just such an icon, and when she cheers on Heather Watson, I just think that is who you want in your box. But I'm trying to think apart from that. I mean, Kate Middleton, I think that would be nice. I just want to do a wellness check, and I'd love to see her there having a day out, make it a nice day out for her. But I just want the right person for the right occasion, as opposed to someone I'm just a really big fan of.
I see. You're thinking much more
like at the French Open, I'm not sure I'd pick either of those.
Kim, just put us all out of our misery and say Ellie Goulding is who you want in your
Ellie
box.
Goulding, yeah.
Yeah.
She could sing for you. She only sings for like
Sing
the
if you're
greatest
winning,
of all time. So, yeah. Or Cliff Richard. There we go.
Yeah.
Right, that's going down a completely different route, isn't it? But yeah. I think I'd have Miranda Hart.
Oh, that's quite fun.
Oh, okay.
She is a tennis fan.
Would you be distracted though?
And quite possibly, depending on what antics she was getting up to in the player box.
She could be pulling like funny faces, but she could be doing that for the opponent. So it could be strategic. She could be putting off your opponent.
If not, I'll have her mother as well. Well, not her real mother, but her mother.
The
on
whole
her
cast
sitcom.
of Miranda is in your box.
Patricia Hot. Basically, the whole
Okay,
cast. Tom
go.
Ellis.
Yes.
All of them. Big Miranda fan. But let's move on, because we do have some news actually coming out of the Olympics. And the big news of the day, I suppose, is that Carlos Alcaraz and Rafa Nadal are not only playing singles for Spain, but they are going to team up in the doubles, which is very, very exciting. Rafa is using his protected ranking to play at what will no doubt be his final Olympics, but we've not seen them in doubles action before, so very much looking forward to that. But Joel, you were very kind enough to pop over to Queen's recently, and we do have Carlos Alcaraz now to hear what he thinks he can learn from Rafa in Paris, playing together at the Olympics.
Well, of course, he knows really, really well Roland Garros. This beautiful court, the side, every court, everything. I mean, he knows pretty well. So, honestly, I think he's gonna teach me how to, deal with everything. I mean, I'm the young guy, you know, who needs to grow up as a player, to grow up as a person as well. So having him by my side, playing doubles, practicing, and of course it's gonna be my first Olympics game, so it's gonna be everything new for me. So I hope to learn a lot from him, the weeks that I'm gonna be with him, and of course I think it's gonna be a really good progression before starting the Olympics game. And obviously it's gonna be a dream if I get a medal with him in my side.
I just love hearing Carlos Alcaraz speak about the opportunity it is to play with, Rafa. I think it's clear from his enthusiasm. He's up for the challenge, and he accepts that the Olympics, it will be a new experience for him. He's young, he's learning, and he almost, I think, sees Rafael Nadal as the teacher or the master, having been there on multiple occasions before. And I think that's really important when it comes to something like the Olympics, which is just an experience, an occasion like nothing else. Even Andy Murray speaking about the Olympics, he really was talking passionately about all the different cultures and countries there, and all the new people you get to meet that feels very, very different from their current kind of setup on the tour, just plodding from place to place. So yeah, I think that for me, was quite interesting in terms of like soaking up the experience, but needing it, because I say it's not a situation he's ever been in before, and it's going to be unique. It's going to be a shock to his system. There's going to be lots and lots going on.
A bit of a bodyguard, sort of a spiritual Olympic leader who's having there. But I thought maybe this partnership was a little bit more beneficial from the Rafa perspective, because if he does need to play mixed doubles, and he could just stand at the net potentially, and then Alcaraz could just run all around him, because he's just so quick at the moment that you just feel like maybe it's if you had two maybe legends of the game teaming up, you wouldn't be sure you'd make it through the whole competition as well as the singles. So maybe it's a bit of a you lean on me, I lean on you for this one.
I think it certainly goes both ways. I mean, Kim, what do you think? What do you think Alcaraz, first of all, can learn from Rafa?
A Vamos,
what can
a convincing
he not learn
Vamos
from Rafa?
Sorry,
convincing Vamos celebration.
What could Rafa learn from Alcaraz?
Ooh, that's a very interesting question. I mean, it's quite difficult, really, because Rafa's already won Olympic singles and doubles. I mean, what has he not won, really? But
can he learn anything from Alcaraz?
I think Rafa is of the mindset that, he'll go into court and respect anyone, young, old, however experienced they are. So I think maybe embracing some of that more youthful spirit. I'm sure Rafa will see a lot of what he had when he was younger in Alcaraz. And I think actually adopting and sort of absorbing some of that for the Olympics, I think that excitement and enthusiasm. Are
you wanting Alcaraz to come out with the Parata pants? Is that what
matching
he wants to channel
would
that?
Be great.
Yes.
Oh, I just feel like it's going to be
matching Parata pants. We need that to happen.
Nike.
A send off for Rafa and Alcaraz's first Olympics. I think it's maybe this is like the changing of the Spanish guard moment together on the doubles court in Roland Garros. Well, for
it is
Paris
blockbuster,
Olympics,
isn't it? What a ticket!
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, in terms of the other news on the Olympics, we've got the Team GB have confirmed their Olympic nomination. So we do have Andy Murray in with an ITF wildcard. Jack Draper, of course, Dan Evans and Cam Norrie for the men. Katy Boulter, our solo women's singles representative, though. And that's because Emma Raducanu could have been there. She was offered a wildcard, but she's turned it down. So we won't have Raducanu in Paris for the Olympics. What do you guys make of that? Do you think that's the right move, Joel?
I think the challenge with the Olympics is that you never know. They only come round once every 4 years, and you can't obviously predict where you're going to be the next time the Olympics comes around. So from that perspective, if you're a player, is it like, if you get the opportunity, do you have to take it? And although I think the offer has been a wild card because she's been a previous Grand Slam champion, and it's come quite late notice. From her point of view, it sounds like she's already kind of planned, that part of her season. She thinks it's too much. And her priority, it's quite clear, it's about getting her ranking up. And with no ranking points at the Olympics, it doesn't feel like a logical reason to play it. I guess the one worry for me is that she misses out on what is, as I say, like a unique experience, a unique opportunity that it's more than ranking points. It's an experience, and it's an experience like no other. And again, just hearing Andy Murray talk about it, it just shows, I think, that you can't, I almost think about it in a rational way in terms of, there's no ranking points here, I'm going to play on the tour and do it that way, because actually it might be a little bit easier because all the players are in Paris, for example. So I just hope she doesn't regret kind of her decision, and it's not just like on logical, common sense, rationale beliefs. And hopefully maybe a bit further down the line that she can, again, maybe it comes in the future.
It's such a shame, though. I mean, I saw the news and we were all working out, I believe, who could get this based on the fact that these wildcards are offered to previous Grand Slam champions. And Karolina Wozniacki, she was given one and she accepted it. She can't believe she's playing, I think it's her fourth Olympics, or it must be fourth Olympics, which is very, very impressive. And you just think these are opportunities that a lot of players would kill for. They would love this opportunity. And you just have to really think that you're making it for the decision for the right reasons. And part of me thinks that potentially this does feel a bit strange from the perspective that she just thrived in a team environment on clay, the Billie Jean King Cup. This could be another lift that could also be a really big feather in her bow in terms of what she can achieve on the tennis court. And it's not all about ranking points. And I think that there is something about this that is supposed to be very special. But being controversial, not sure what you think about this, I'm not a big fan of Olympic tennis. I don't think it makes sense necessarily, given the high-profile nature of these stars at an event where it's not necessarily the same star power. I kind of feel like it's a distraction at times to the Olympics at large, like having a Serena Williams, a Rafa, and I think that it doesn't really necessarily have a place, no ranking points. I think you have these weird ones where players are rejecting opportunities to be at the Olympics. It seems insane, but you can kind of see why.
I think it's very, very Marmite. I think it's very, very polarizing in terms of you have players like Murray who, they want to play at every opportunity. They love it. Murray's talking about the fact that he would either end his career at Wimbledon or the Olympics. He doesn't feel like he would want to end his career, for example, at the US Open. But yeah, you do get other players who would actually rather just stay on the tour and go after trophies and ranking points, etc. And I do think there's a sort of a big either or kind of school of thought there, and there's no real in between.
I think we are seeing more decisions not to play it because of the surface change. In previous Olympics it's been a hard court, so I think this time round there are going to be more considerations just in terms of practicalities, the scheduling, the change of surface, the impact on the body. But for me, if it was me and I was a young up and coming player, this was my first opportunity to be an Olympian, to compete in this festival of sport with all the other athletes from around the globe, I'd be relishing that. And I even though tennis isn't really the pinnacle of the Olympic Games, I would just want to be an Olympian. That's my perspective.
I'll just read the schedule. I mean, this is just, you can understand why players like Jabeur and Sabalenka have withdrawn, because July 8th is the second week of Wimbledon. Clay tournament's July 15th. Olympic tennis is on the July 27th. The Canadian Masters starts on the August 6th on hard courts. And then the Cincinnati Masters, mid-August. You're going from grass to clay to hard in a very, very short space of time. And, you must think of the ramifications that could have on your body. Very tough with, a Grand Slam in the offing as well with the US Open.
Yeah, I think, though, again, it's how much you prioritise that, I guess. If you've done the Olympics before, you're probably not so bothered because, you could just skip maybe the Canadian Open, or, you don't have to play the clay events prior to Paris. I think it's just more that it's going from 3 different surfaces in the space of a month, which is not great. So I can understand it from both perspectives. completely. But let's see. We're probably going to have potentially other names dropping out or people deciding nearer the time, I just can't do this, depending on how well they do at Wimbledon, I suppose. So let's play it by ear. We'll be we'll feedback on the latest with the Olympic news. But let's have a look at what's happening this week. We've got a trio of 500 events happening. Queens, with Tennis Weekly, is present there this week, thanks to Joel. Carlos Alcaraz is the top seed. He's opening tomorrow, his campaign there to defend his title, I believe. He did win this last year, didn't he?
Yeah. He beat defeated de Minaur in the final, and it's quite interesting. He's got Cerundolo in the first round. They were practicing with each other like yesterday, and you don't often see that. Players practicing against each other, and then they're going to be playing them in the first round as well.
I would practice badly, deliberately badly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he almost beat Djokovic at the French, didn't he? So, very different story here, of course. The winner of that, though, will play, hopefully, Jack Draper, who has Navone in the first round.
Everyone would love to see that, I think, particularly now with Jack as the British number one. I mean, this feels like a tournament where he can assert his status and his this label now, because Cam Norrie went out today. He's not in the best of form. Dan Evans as well. It's sort of that British number one sort of mantle is there for the taking. So, yeah, I think he'll be hoping he can push on from Stuttgart.
I'm hoping Andy Murray could get like a couple of wins. He's got Popper in, I think, qualifier. But winner of that would face Jordan Thompson, who took out Holger Rune today in 3. So, yeah, we'll see Billy Harris in there as well on a wild card for GB. We've also got Halle, though. So if you're not in Queens, you're usually in Halle, aren't you? And Yannick Sinner is there as the top seed, Sasha Zverev as the second seed, Hubert Hurkacz as well, Medvedev. So, yeah, also big names in the Halle event as well. Anyone you're predicting for this event at all?
Well, I think Berrettini could be good, but it's strange he's playing here. I thought he loved the Queen's Club.
Yeah, what went on there? Because he's won that tournament twice.
A big crowd favourite, yeah. This is not the boss.
It's not a Hugo Boss sponsor. Unless they're a side sponsor.
Plot thickens.
I mean, he's already won Queens, so he probably wants to complete
He wants to do the Halle Queens double,
Yeah. We've also got Berlin, though, for the ladies. WTA 500, Coco Gauff is the top seed there, and Sabalenka second seed. Raducanu is due to be there as well. Pegula, etc. So, yeah, big names in the draw out in Berlin as well. Obviously, essential getting your practice in before Wimbledon, and Birmingham as well. WTA 250, Ostapenko is the top seed, although she lost to Cocciaretto, didn't she? Yeah.
Sloane.
So maybe opening up the door for Sloane.
It's opening up for Sloane. It's opening up for Sloane.
With her new bags.
And Boulter's got Kalinina first round. So good luck, Katy Bolter. Let's see if she can make inroads after winning Nottingham. But I think that brings us to a close for a bumper episode, guys, for the first official week of the grass court season.
I know, and it's been a fantastic week for the Brits. Long may it continue up till Wimbledon. But listeners, I hope you've enjoyed our latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all the action to come from the ATP and WTA tours.
We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcasting platforms out there. So if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
You can also follow us on social media or email the show. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and X. And the handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. You can purchase our Tennis Weekly merch, and you can sport them across the grass court season. Joel will be... And that's at etsy.com/shop/tennisweeklypodcast. You can also email the show, tennisweeklypod@gmail.com, or do check out our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we will be back next time at Tennis Weekly HQ, so I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
It's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We'll see you again soon.